everybody, and welcome to the world-famous Ultimate Job Search and Career Podcast with me, your host, Bill, the company's expert. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about your odds of getting a job. What are your odds of getting a job? How many applications do you have to submit before the odds are in your favor that you will get hired? How long is this going to take? I know this is a very popular burning question that a lot of people are wondering, so we're going to get into that today. And then later on in the episode, we're going to talk about how to do a job search for freshers. Okay, so if you are relatively new to the whole job search thing, and it's kind of intimidating and it's confusing and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to look to find jobs, and you don't know how to apply for them, what's the best way to put yourself forward to get them, we're going to talk about that, all the different places that you can look to find jobs and all the different activities that will likely yield jobs. So we're going to talk about that later on in the episode. But before we get into that, it has only just occurred to me that in the last episode of the Ultimate Job Search and Career Podcast, where I was talking about attire, business clothing, what clothes to wear to make you look professional, I talked a lot about clothing. I did not talk about grooming. So I just want to say that grooming is very important. Okay. If you have 35 piercings on your head and a face tattoo, chances are that's not going to look too good to a lot of employers. Employers tend to be on the conservative side. And if you're younger, if you're in your mid-20s, early 20s, and you might be wrestling with this, and the whole concept of, I don't want to change who I am just to get a job. I don't want to take sides in that. Sometimes people agree with that. Sometimes they don't. But what I'm saying is that it would be horribly stupid to not be selected for a job simply because of your hairstyle or the way you look, right? So always remember, employers tend to be on the conservative side. This varies by industry, but that's a general rule. Don't show up with a mohawk to the job interview. Don't show up with a reverse mohawk to the job interview. Don't show up with the famous sideways mohawk. And for guys, the sideways mohawk comes down, joins your sideburns and your beard. You paint the whole thing green, you spike it up, and you look like a flower. Don't do that. That's probably not going to get you hired. Okay, grooming is very important. So I forgot to talk about that whole issue last podcast, but that's okay because we've moved on and we're here today. Now, let's talk about your odds of getting a job. So a big question that a lot of people have is, what is the probability that my application is selected and I get hired based on an application? What is this? Do I have a 10% chance of getting hired? Do I have a 1% chance of getting hired for every application I submit? How does it work? And if that's the case, how long do I have to do this? And how many applications do I have to submit before I can expect to get hired? I want to predict. Now, the way to sort of start off here, I think, is to first, this might sound extremely boring, but just bear with me for about 30 seconds, is to look at the probability formula. Okay, everybody should know this. Or if you don't, this is your time to learn. What are the odds that something's going to happen? Like rolls of the dice, right? Probability math was not my most favorite thing in my engineering degree, but this is the formula. Okay, let's pretend that you have a 1% chance of being hired for each application you submit. Okay, let's pretend, just for the sake of argument, you got a 1% chance, right? Well, the way the math works is you can look this up on Google, and I think the official formula is something like 1 minus 1 over n to the power of n or something. There's actually two variables here. One is your odds of getting hired for each application, and then the number 2 variable is how many times you apply, right? How many jobs you apply to. Okay, the first one you don't have control over, but the second one you do. Right? You might not have control over your odds of getting selected, but you do have control over how many you apply to. So, if you had a 1% chance of getting hired, okay, and you applied to 10 jobs. The formula for that would be basically 0.99 at the power of 10. And that gives you your probability of getting hired, okay? Now, the way this works is that there's a very simple way to remember this. If you had a 1% chance of getting hired and you applied for 100 jobs, okay? Now, that might sound like a lot, but remember, in this day and age, you get on Indeed.com, you can apply for literally 100 jobs in a day if you really want to, right? It's really not that hard, okay? And I'm not suggesting you do this because you might want to tailor your job applications for each job. But anyway, let's pretend that you have a 1% chance of getting a job for each application you submit, 1% chance of being selected, and you apply for 100 jobs. You work out this formula. That's 0.99 at the power of 100, and it comes out to 63%. Okay, so you have the 63% chance of getting hired if you were to apply 100 times over to 100 jobs, and each job you had a 1% chance of being selected, okay? That's what that's saying. Now, obviously, the more times you apply, your probability goes up, okay? So it's going to inch upwards. So 1% chance of being selected, apply for 100 jobs, chances of getting hired is 63%. Okay, and this is the quirk of this formula. If you were to have a 10% chance of being selected for a job, and you were to apply for 10 of these jobs, once again, your odds of getting hired are 63%. Okay, and if you apply for, say, 20 jobs, your odds of getting hired goes up. Okay, so you can just do this formula. Okay, it's 1 minus 1 over n, where n is, your odds of getting hired. So 1 minus 1 over 100 is 0.99. Okay, so you take that and you put it to the power of the amount of jobs you apply to. Okay, and that's the formula. So if ever you're wondering this, that's the formula. Okay, that's the basic formula. Now, obviously, that's making assumptions. It's making the assumption that every job you apply to, you have the same chance of getting hired. That might not necessarily be true. Okay, and you have perfect control over how many jobs you apply to. You just keep grinding away, right? And that's the odds of getting hired. Okay, at least from a very mathematical way. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because it gives you sort of an approximate kind of ballpark idea of, what you're up against. Okay. Now, when I'm talking about this formula, I'm talking mainly about people who apply for posted jobs. Okay. You respond to a job posting with a job application. Okay. And there's no way of knowing, how many people are applying for the job. But if 100 people apply for the job, okay, all things being equal, you will have a 1% chance of getting the job. If 200 people apply for the job, mathematically, you will have a 0.5% chance of getting that job. If 10 people apply for the job and you're one of the 10, you have a 10% chance of getting the job. Okay, so mathematically, that's what we're talking about. It depends on the amount of competition. Okay. Now, those odds don't look particularly good. Obviously, it depends on a bunch of factors, but that's kind of the ballpark. Okay. So the big question is, how many people are applying for these same jobs that you're applying? Well, as you can see, you don't need math to tell you this. The more competition you have, the lower your odds of getting a job, which necessitates applying for a lot more jobs, right? If you're doing this. So this is one of the reasons why people who get hired, they tend not to go through standard channels. They tend not to respond to posted jobs. Okay, this is also a fact of life. Maybe you're aware of this, maybe you're not. But if you're not aware of this, learn this now. Okay, for lower level jobs, they tend to be filled through standard channels. Okay, like entry level type jobs, things like that. Not always, but it's a general trend. And then as you get higher, you have like supervisor jobs, manager jobs, executive jobs, okay, and then so on, board level jobs. As you go up, less and less of those jobs tend to be posted. In fact, for executive type jobs, about 75% of those jobs no, actually it's not 75, it's about 90% are not posted. Only 10% of those jobs are actually posted. So if you come across a job posting for an executive type position, you're seeing one of the 10% that's actually posted. There's at least 9 other jobs that are not posted for every one of those you see. Okay. For management type jobs, it's about 75%. Okay. So if you see, a job posting for a general manager, something like that, you're seeing one of 25% of those jobs that are posted. For every one job you see, there's about 3 that are not posted. Okay. And so on. Right. So there's a reason why those jobs are not posted. Okay. People tend to fill those in the hidden job market. And we're going to talk about that later on. Okay. But that gives you a general idea of what you're up against. Okay. Now, the way to increase your chances of getting hired are obviously to apply for positions where there's not a lot of competition. Okay. Posted jobs, they attract all the job seekers. Okay. So all the job seekers are concentrating themselves applying for those posted jobs. When in fact, many, many other jobs are out there. They're just not posted. They're hidden. Okay. So all that means is that the job exists, but the person in charge of filling that job hasn't posted it publicly. Okay. If you think about this, if you have a job that you have to fill, you could probably fill it just by thinking like, okay, I know a couple of people that, are looking for work and they could do this job, right? Maybe friends of employees or friends of friends, whatever. They're looking for a job. Now, if they're qualified, I could maybe just get them to do the job. I could offer it to them and they would be able to do it properly. I'll give them first dibs. It's not favoritism. Favoritism is if they're not qualified and you give them the job. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just looking at them first. And if they are qualified and they could fulfill it and they want to fill it and everything checks out, you say, well, look, why should I post this publicly? That takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort for a lot of people. And then having to having to filter resumes, having to arrange interviews, having to do the interviews, having to do a couple of rounds of interviews, and then background checks and, blah, 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 blah. That's very time consuming and therefore very expensive. A lot of hiring managers would love to just fill the position with someone that they know that's capable, that is a good fit for the job, and be done with it. It's quick. And also, those candidates have an advantage over posting the job publicly because those candidates have a personal recommendation. They either are someone that the hiring manager knows personally, or they're someone that's recommended to the hiring manager by, say, a coworker or subordinate or something like that. So already that candidate has an advantage over a complete stranger because that candidate has some kind of personal recommendation. You have somebody at the organization that's personally vouching for them. Okay. So this is why the vast majority of people who are looking for a job, they actually don't get the job by responding to a posted job ad. Instead, they get the job through networking. Okay. And like I always say, you don't have to take my word for any of this. Go do your own research and this is what you'll find. Okay. So, but if you're posting, if you're applying for a public post or public job where you don't have any personal connection to the hiring manager or to the organization, then you're having to deal with these odds. Okay. Because these public postings a lot of times get hundreds of candidates. Okay. Now you can get a job this way. People do, but not most people. And that's very important to be aware. Why go head to head with 200 other candidates when you can go direct? You can put yourself forward in the hidden job market. You could contact a hiring manager directly, say, hey, here I am. I've got these skills. I solved this problem. I'm looking for this type of job. If ever you're looking for somebody who can do that, let me know, because I'd love to work for your company. I know you guys are leaders and, whatever it is that you do. And I hope you'll give me a call. Thank you very much, or whatever. Right? And then the hiring manager, if they see that just at the right time, they say, hey, I might not have to post this job. Here's a person that might work out. And I appreciate their initiative and I appreciate their passion. I don't know anything about them, but already they've impressed me with their initiative and their professionalism. And you know what? I might just contact them, because if they work out, I save myself a lot of trouble, a lot of time, and a lot of money. Okay? This is what happens. Now, whenever I say this, I sometimes get people that say, well, I don't believe that. A lot of companies have to post things publicly. No, they don't. They don't. Maybe some larger organizations, especially government organizations, have policies on essentially fair play. You have to post any position publicly. Even if you're looking on the hidden job market, you have to post it publicly. And a lot of organizations, they do that and they go through the motions. But then in the end, they conclude, well, we did look publicly, but quite frankly, I still prefer this candidate that we had before, the internal candidate or the friend of a subordinate recommending this person. So there you go. So, you know what? Let's just get into the main question here of the second part of this podcast. How do you do a job search for freshers? I've kindly already set it up by talking about this stuff, okay? There are many different things you can do to look for a job, okay? Usually the default thing that, everybody's starting out when they have to find a job, they basically think of what they've seen in the movies, they think of, what other people have told them, and the default method that comes up is you have to scan essentially the classified ads, the list of publicly posted jobs, and then just apply, And that's how we did things in the 80s. That's kind of was more standard then. But the problem is, since everything has gone on the internet, it's become so easy to apply for jobs, generally speaking, that those posted jobs are inundated with candidates. And like I said, you get like 200 candidates applying for a job. And this is standard. You get about 200 applications. So that's the default method, okay? And a lot of people, especially when they're young, they start out doing that. And that can be very tough because mathematically you're going in with a lot of competition. It's very hard to succeed because you're going head to head with a lot of people, okay? But there are many other things you can do. So if you were looking for a job today, okay, and you're wondering what should you do? You have to find a job. Well, I would say, yes, you can do the thing where you look for posted jobs in your industry or whatever it is you want to do, whatever your qualifications are or what your ambition is. You can do this. You can go to, go on Google, go to Indeed.com, go to other job aggregators. It used to be things like Mozilla and, Jobzilla, I should say, and Monster and things like this. But, and look at company websites and all this kind of stuff. But in addition to that, don't just do one thing. Don't just do that and nothing else, okay? Because that is sort of a branch of this operation. You can do that, but what's really effective is if you're looking in multiple places, okay? And so the first place you can look is standard channels. Now, let's get into the standard channels. I've already talked about applying directly to job postings, okay? There's other things that are linked in with that, okay? Like, for example, there are staffing companies, HR companies out there. What they do is they post jobs. So a lot of times, like if you go to an HR company in your hometown, they have a Twitter account or a Twitter feed. You subscribe to that and you monitor their feed, and they will tweet the jobs that they're posting, okay? So you can stay informed of what they're doing, okay? Sometimes they also have sort of a general labor pool. You can go down there and you can contact them, and they will suggest you for different jobs. They will put your name forward. They will keep you informed as to what companies are looking for different things. So that also is a way to do it, okay? Staffing companies. So within standard channels, you've got posted jobs. from aggregators like Indeed and, some of the other big ones there like Monster. You've also got staffing companies. Okay. So in your hometown, you can find the staffing companies, subscribe to them, go to their website, look at the postings they have. Okay. Sometimes they'll have like casual labor type stuff. And that's very useful because all the companies that just want day labor and casual jobs, they will contact those types of companies. And you can get one of those. And that can also lead to a more permanent job, okay? Because the way those things usually work is that they might want somebody for a short term, like a term employment, maybe 3 months. But if they like them, it can lead to a more permanent position there, okay? So that's one vector where you can use to apply for jobs, okay? Those I would collectively call those standard channels, okay? Now let's talk about the next sort of place to look, which is networking. Okay, this is huge. There's many, many things within this. Okay, probably the easiest and most intuitive to understand is something like a job fair. Okay, this is something that, especially for people coming out of school, younger people coming out of school, your educational institution might organize the job fair, and it's a sort of network meeting where you get all the companies coming down that are looking to hire people, and then you get all the students kind of attending also and going to the different booths of all the different companies. That's a weird word, booths. Anyway, I guess it is if you say it like that. But it's sort of like almost like a speed dating kind of way of, mixing candidates with organizations that are hiring. Okay, so it's a job fair, but it's basically networking. It's a branch of networking. Okay, you go there and you'll have a stack of resumes, and you have, what's really useful is to have business cards. Okay, now this is kind of a little bit old school, but it's still done this way. And my understanding is even in after the events of 2020 and 2021, this is still a thing. Okay, so that's something to check out if that applies to you. The other thing you can do within the hidden job market is you can do social networking. This is a tremendous tool. I advocate for a method where you contact hiring managers directly using LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn is an incredible tool, and you can use a combination of Google Maps and LinkedIn to not only find the organizations that are in your industry, that are near you, physically near you, in your hometown. Okay, but then you could use LinkedIn to see inside those organizations to the individuals who are likely the hiring managers, people making decisions, starting all the way up at the CEO level, and then going all the way down to middle managers. They're the ones that usually are thinking, I need to hire somebody to do this particular job. Yeah, I got to get on that, And usually at any given time, a lot of these people will have that in the back of their mind. And if you send them a message and say, hey, my name is this, I'm qualified in this, I can solve this problem, and I'm looking for a position, and I know you guys are leaders in your field. If ever you're looking for someone like that, let me know, right? You essentially send a message like that, and you broadcast that message out to hundreds of these people. Now, most people won't respond because they're just not looking for that right now. But some people will be. It's just the law of probability. Some people will be looking for that right now. And you swoop in there at the right moment. They haven't posted the job yet. They haven't really developed it yet. They haven't written a job description, but they know, what have I got to do this week? Well, later this week, I got to post this job. Right? So you swoop in there, and it's just serendipity. Now, the odds are actually very favorable when you do this. This is a really, really good way of getting a job. For one, you don't have to leave the comfort of your own home as long as you have a computer or possibly a phone. I think you can do this with a phone. It would require some pretty sophisticated phone skills to sort of copy paste, and do this efficiently. But especially if you have a computer or laptop, tablet, whatever, you can do this. You don't have to talk to anyone on the phone. You already can line up several interviews just by doing this. So I highly recommend this. Incidentally, I go into the nitty-gritty details of precisely how to do this in my course, my Get Hired course. Check that out. There's a link in the description box of this video on precisely how to do that. I walk you through the entire process with scripts, with examples, with everything from end to end, if you're interested in learning that, okay? But that's one way, okay? That's one way of getting a job. Another way is a more indirect way, and that's getting informational interviews. So it's very similar. You're contacting the same types of people high up in organizations, and you're sending them a message through the same channel, the same way you would do this, usually on LinkedIn, except that you're not asking for a job. You're not saying, I'm looking for a job. What you're doing is you're saying, I'm looking to get your expert opinion on a couple of questions about your industry. You know, would you have half an hour to spare at a time of your convenience, at a place of your convenience? Let me know. And same idea. You blast that out to many, many hiring managers, many, many executives, and you'd be surprised how many people will say, yes, I have some time. How is right here, you know? And you go down there and you're talking with an executive at that company, and you ask them about them, and you ask them about their opinions on various things that's going on in their industry. You know, what are the biggest challenges in your industry? Where do you see this industry going? You know, and then you just feed off what they tell you. You know, oh, well, this new technology is coming in and it's changing things. Oh yeah, in what way? You know, and you just kind of go on and you're learning about that industry. Now, at the end of the day, if you do this right, they'll love you because you're asking them about them, and they love to talk about this stuff, and they love to talk about their industry. They're very knowledgeable and they love to talk about it. And here is somebody in front of them that's passionate, that is interested, and is asking them about their opinions on their own industry. They love that. It's very flattering. When someone does this to me, I love it. When someone does it to you, you love it, you know? And you tend to think favorably of that person. So then if you end the interview, you say, thank you very much. That was awesome. You know, I'm just looking to learn all I can about this industry. My ambition is to work in this industry. And, you know, maybe someday I'll have the chance. And then you go away, and a couple of weeks later, you say, you know, I've been thinking about stuff that you've been telling me. And, you know, I think I might be able to help you with that. If ever you're looking for, you know, someone who can do this particular thing, let me know, because I can do that and I'd love to help you with it, you know. And a lot of times people say yes, because you're there and they like you and you've shown your initiative, you've shown your professionalism, you've shown your passion. And what are people really looking for in job interviews? They're looking for those three things. They're looking for somebody who's not just there because they want to be paid. They don't care what they'll do, they'll be paid. They're there because they want that particular job. They're passionate about it, they're dedicated, and they're professional, and you know, they fit, right? That's what people are looking for in job interviews. Well, you've just demonstrated all of that to the decision maker, and they personally like you. And let me tell you, it's really powerful when your resume gets handed to the head of HR, not from one of their subordinates, one of the recruiters, but from the CEO or from a divisional vice president that says, I like this candidate. Let's look into this candidate. Right? That's very powerful. Okay. So that's one. Actually, those are two of the ways you can get hired in the hidden job market. Okay. I've listed two things, you know, sort of broadcasting your general availability and also informational interviews. Okay. There are many others, but those are two big ones that you can do from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to have a single phone call with anyone. You don't have to, you know, put on a suit and hand out business cards and schmooze with anyone. Nothing like that. You don't have to have any kind of personal connection with anyone at that organization. But already, if they you know, the way this is done is that they are recommending you for the position. You are not applying for it. That makes a huge difference. People all of a sudden regard you much more favorably, and you become the front runner, and you're not dealing with a lot of competition. So it's perfect. It's a win-win. It's a win in many areas, put it that way. Okay. So that's networking. Okay. Like there's many other things, but in a nutshell, that's networking. You could do that kind of thing. And I have videos on my YouTube channel to talk about this. And I also have my course there that really goes in depth with scripts and examples. There are other ways too. You can apply for jobs in person. Okay. Now, before you balk at that, a lot of young people kind of dismiss that, but a lot of more seasoned professionals, they know this is a very powerful thing. You walk through the front doors of the company, and usually you get to the front desk and you talk to some kind of receptionist, and you have your resume with you, and you say to the receptionist, "Hi, my name is X, and I'd like to speak to the manager that runs this. Are they available?" Now, usually the manager will not be available. Okay. So you say, "No problem. That's no problem at all. I would very much like to drop off here. I'd like to drop this off. Here's my resume and a business card if you have one. Could you see that they get that, please? I'm sorry, what was their name if I could get their name?" And they say, "Oh, that would be this person, and I'll see that they get your resume." And you say, "Excellent. Thank you very much. Have a great day." And then you leave. That's all you do. And then you follow up with a phone call. Okay. I don't know if you can get away with an email or a DM. I'm not sure. But a phone call is better. Okay. What you do is you call the switchboard for the organization. And then now that you know the name of the person you're trying to reach, you get put through to their phone. And if you talk to them in person, that's great. If you don't talk to them, you get a voicemail. That's also great. What you say is, "Hello, my name is X, and I was just following up on a resume that I dropped off for you at the front desk. I'm just wondering if you had received that." Okay, so perfectly legitimate reason to call. You don't have to try and sell yourself. You're just saying, "I'm just following up. I had dropped off my resume at the front desk. I'm just wondering if you had received that," right? And then if they say no, you could say, "Okay, that's fine." If they say yes, you could say, "Okay, that's fine." And then you basically say the same thing. You just say like, "Yeah, my name is X. I can do this. I can solve this problem. I'm passionate about working in this particular industry. So if ever you're looking for someone that can do that, please let me know because I'd love to work for you. That's all. Thank you very much for your time. Have yourself a great day." Now that's very powerful. Okay. If that hiring manager happens to be looking for candidates, or they have in the back of their mind that they need to hire someone to do this particular job, okay, and it's a matter of sheer random probability, okay, if they have that in the back of their mind, then they'll probably think, "Hey, we might be looking for somebody. Would you have some time to come in for a meeting? Like if we just grab a coffee?" You say, "Sure." And then you work it out, time and place. Might be their office. It might be a neutral third-party place like a Starbucks. And you do a little meeting, right? Or a job interview or whatever it is, right? That's the way to put yourself forward. Now, the advantage of doing it this way is because you stand out from the crowd. Not a lot of people are doing this. So the fact that you're there and nobody else is, that's extremely powerful. The fact that you're initiating this on your own, that's very powerful. The fact that you've shown up in person, you've already talked to the receptionist. What a lot of hiring managers might do is they might talk to the receptionist and say, "Was there a guy here? Was there a person here that dropped off a resume?" You say, "Yeah." He's like, "What did you think? Was he a nice guy?" They might say, "Yeah, he was professional. He was a nice enough person from, 2 minutes that I talked to him." Says, "Okay." Right? So this is an alternative way of getting a job. A lot of people do this, especially people that are not at the entry level. Okay. And this has been shown, all these things together under the umbrella of networking, that is collectively the most popular way of getting a job. Most people that get a job through networking. But this is one of the ways you can do it, applying in person. Okay. Another one is volunteering. Volunteering is actually another vector. Okay, another way into an organization. And this is where, you volunteer for something for a couple weeks. If you're out of work and you're looking for a job and, you have time on your hands, this is another vector in. You can volunteer for a job. And the thing about volunteering is that, like I said in my last podcast, this demonstrates your passion for something. If you respond to a job ad and they ask you, are you passionate about doing this type of work? Of course, your answer is going to be yes, because you're hoping they'll hire you and give you money, right? Even if you're not passionate, even if it's like the worst, most boring, most tedious thing in the world, the last thing you want to do with your life, you'll say, oh yeah, I'm totally passionate about this, because you want the job and basically you want the money, right? Okay, now, recruiters aren't completely stupid. I'm being kind here. And they know that this is a lie a lot of times, okay? But if you volunteered for something, that's pretty much proof that you're passionate about that. And it demonstrates a lot of things, like you're reliable, you're professional, you care about people or whatever it is that you're volunteering for, and that can go a long way. So that's another vector. I've done a podcast on how you can get a job through volunteering. Not that you want to volunteer and, because volunteering by definition doesn't pay anything. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about using volunteering as a way to secure a profitable long-term job, okay, and be gainfully employed, okay? And then finally, there's something called growth opportunities. Growth opportunities is if you're living in a part of the world or a region that's growing, okay, there's the economy is doing well, and you have companies coming to town on a regular basis, and they're building offices and they're building facilities, right? When those companies arrive in town, one of their big problems is they need to hire people. Okay, so they maybe will send some kind of manager to run the office. If this is a branch office or something like that, or it's a branch operation, they'll send some people from corporate headquarters or somewhere else in the company to set up that operation. Okay, but a lot of the people that work in that operation are going to be hired local, right? So one of the big problems that they have when they get to town is like, who are we going to hire? We've got to build our facility. We've got to, set up the company. There's many, many things we've got to set up. And one of them is we've got to hire the talent and train them, right? Now, number one, if you can find out who's coming to town and who's setting up shop and who's expanding and who's building new offices and new operations, which you can, this is advertised. This is trumpeted by certainly your city. If you live in a city, the economic development department of the municipal government, they'll be shouting this from the rooftops. Hey, come to this city. We've got so many people coming here. Business is booming here. It's the place to live. It's the place to work. There's a lot of growth, a lot of activity. We got this company, this company, this company, this company coming to town. Here's some articles on each of those companies and what they're doing here and how exciting this is. And you have the article where we talk about the people from the organization that are coming here, and we give you their email address and their name and their title, right? Now, even if they don't give you their contact information, you can find it pretty easily using things like LinkedIn. And then you can do what I talked about earlier about contacting those people and sending them a message and, making a case for yourself. Okay. That's called growth opportunities. So that's another vector, another way to apply for jobs. Okay. So in this podcast so far, I'm going to sort of wind this down because I'm approaching 40 minutes, but we've talked about standard channels. Okay. Whether that's applying for job postings, whether it's for contacting staffing companies or you can even contact the recruiters in those companies, contact the HR department. That's a standard channel too, right? Okay, we've talked about that. We talked about networking, things like the hidden job market. Okay, you can broadcast yourself to hiring managers, and it's a numbers game. The more you broadcast, the greater the odds that you'll get some bites, and you will get some bites. We talked about informational interviews. We talked about job fairs. Okay, we talked about applying for a job in person. If you really want to work at a specific company, then this is maybe the way you should do it. We talked about volunteering. We talked about growth opportunities. These are just some of the methods you can use to get a job. Okay, so if you're interested in learning more, you could check out some of the videos on my channel. I have 2 channels, The Company's Expert and The Company's Expert 2. Mainly on my main channel, I go into this stuff. And also, if you really want to go deep, you can check out my course called Get Hired. There's a link to it in the description box of this video. So hopefully that was helpful, especially to people just starting out. You've got all these different things to investigate, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of possibilities. Okay, a lot of places to look to discover jobs, and then ways to put yourself forward for it. Okay, so hopefully that should give you enough to go on. So if you don't see a lot of job postings in your area, don't worry, don't lose heart. There are many jobs out there. It's just that most of them are hidden. And these are techniques that expose not only the ones that are posted, but the ones that are hidden too. Okay? So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are awesome as always. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will respond either directly or on my podcast. And I wish you nothing but the best. Have yourself a great couple of days, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.